Good evening, I'm Isaac Ben-Ezra, host, co-producer of Conversations. As you'll get to know shortly, on April 3rd, Amherst is having a primary. We're going to elect 2 or 3 new school committee members as well as library board of trustees. Today begins the series with the candidates for school committee, and you'll have an opportunity online, and we'll put the number, the webpage on the screen several times so that after this is shown on its first showing, you'll be able to see it directly at your leisure online. So there's no excuse. Everybody will have an opportunity to be introduced to the candidates. Lawrence O'Brien, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you for having me.
First time for me.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Ben-Ezra.
Lawrence O'Brien that name may be familiar if you remember Watergate. It's no relationship to this Lawrence who's running for school committee, but Lawrence O'Brien was he was the national chairman of the Democratic Party, and that was the Watergate break-ins. So I think from a political perspective, he's got an edge on all the candidates. Lawrence O'Brien. Okay.
I've got the name in Massachusetts.
Yeah, that should be, just don't think about Watergate so much.
Well, I was the victim of Watergate, so.
Okay, maybe we'll get into that.
Sure.
Okay, they kind of blamed you for everything.
Well, they went after me. Nixon's guys were after me. His plumbers were after Lawrence O'Brien, so.
That's
so we were
right.
the good guys. We were the good guys.
Yeah, so all they did was put Lawrence O'Brien on Google, and your name popped up.
Yes.
Was that an interesting experience?
Oh, sure. Well, it's interesting. I'm a history teacher, so it's interesting teaching mostly U.S. history and inevitably having to teach Watergate and coming across teaching my students that Nixon's plumbers were after, they were all their targets. One of their targets was the Democratic National Committee, who was chaired by Lawrence O'Brien, which inevitably brings a lot of chuckles from my students.
And there must be thousands of O'Briens. They were kept pretty busy.
Yes.
I wonder how many homes they stole into that we don't know about.
We don't. That's right. Before they got there, they weren't exactly the most talented bunch. That's
At any rate, it's good to have you at the round table.
Thank you.
What motivated you to run for school committee, Lawrence?
Well, my wife and I have lived in town. We both came here as students to attend UMass, and we both graduated from UMass. And after graduating, we ended up settling in Amherst and making this our home. And we thought it was a great place to raise a family and to work. And so we've been here as year-round residents since 1985. And we had our children back in 1993. We have twins and a daughter, Kate, who was born in 1996. So the older two have gone through the schools, and my daughter, Kate, is in 10th grade now. And so I have decided there's 2 vacancies in the school committee to put my name forward to run for school committee. I've been a town meeting member in the past, served in that capacity for 7 years. And then I stepped out of town meeting and got much more active in union activism in the teachers union, Mass Teachers Association. And now I'm still active in that in my local, but at the same time I'm interested in getting back civically engaged in town. And I think being a teacher for the last 10 years, the position that I could bring the most insight to and the strongest voice would be school issues. And so with the 2 vacancies, I've decided to put my name in contention.
Well, that's an exciting background. And
Thank you.
How does a member of the union as a school committee member, deal with wearing 2 hats? I think people will want to know that.
Sure. Well, I see them as interconnected. Schools, our educational systems are almost like, it's like an ecosystem, and one part of the ecosystem inevitably affects the other part. And so as a classroom teacher for the last 10 years, I realized that that the school committee, even if I don't have any daily contact or any regular contact or any contact at all with the school committee. I realize that they are establishing policies and acting as an oversight board of my supervisors, my principal, assistant principal, and then up the chain of command to the superintendent. So inevitably, even if I don't have contact, I realize that the school committee is in there. They are having an impact, the policies they establish and their oversight of the administration. And fundamentally, I do see schools as everybody who's connected to the school is clearly working toward the same objective, which is what's best for the students. And I don't see any contradiction between the interests of the superintendent and the school committee, the administration and teachers. Where there are conflicts of interest, that's why we have collective bargaining agreements, that's why we have union contracts, and we work those differences out. And that's what's great about having such a highly unionized teacher workforce in Massachusetts. In almost all the school districts that I know of, the union is representing the interests of the teachers, but at the same time, when you represent the interests of the teachers, you're representing the interests of the students. And I hope, and I do that in Belchertown, and I hope that in Amherst, as a school committee member, I will also be representing the interests of the students. And I realize that the teachers in the system that I hopefully will be a school committee member on are professionals, not just the teachers, actually, all the staff in the schools, custodians, cafeteria workers, paraprofessionals, teachers, classroom teachers, everybody, coaches after school, advisors for clubs, all have the same interests in mind, and that is to serve the interests of the students. And I think that it's incumbent, actually, that the school committee and administration realize that about all the staff they've hired. And so my goal, actually, on the school committee will be to help the administration establish policies that invest in the staff, to help the staff succeed, because there's not going to be any success, any student success, without staff success. And so I really see a mutuality of interest.
It's not that unusual, because nobody raises this question when they're professors at UMass or Amherst College, and we've certainly had our fill of professors. So,
sure.
And I say that in a non-judgmental way, but the reality is this question does come up.
Yep.
But you've been involved with your children throughout their education. Tell
Yes.
me about that, and what are the things that you see as a parent, essentially?
In terms of what I see in the schools?
In terms of where we are, where we've been, and where we're going.
Okay, well, so within our school, so yes, I have my two oldest daughters, K through 12, graduated last year and are doing wonderfully at their first year of college. Both of them are fortunately twins, so they're in Boston, which is great. They're not far apart from each other. And my third daughter, my third child, is in the 10th grade right now, as I mentioned earlier. And so my wife and I have been very involved in their education. I will admit, I was most available for time to attend the parent-guardian group at Marks Meadow. They went through the Marks Meadow Elementary School, so that's when I was most active in schools, although my wife really was probably, of the two of us, was the most active. She was a parent representative on the Marks Meadow School Council. But I used to attend parent-guardian meetings, and I even tutored for a while in Marks Meadow when I was getting certified. I made a change in my career. Before I was a teacher, I worked as a part-time union organizer, and in the process of shifting from one to the other, I had to get certified, so I did a tutoring stint, and I had the good fortune to be able to tutor in Marks Meadow. So I was actually in our schools not just as a parent concerned about my child's education and welfare, but I had a chance to be a tutor. So what I've seen over the last 13 years of having kids in the schools is that my children have been very well educated. They've been very well served by the schools. And my interest is in trying to establish policies that will make sure that all of our students in the Amherst schools have the same academic success or some kind of academic success. What I would say that most concerns me, though, in the last 4 years, few years at least, last few years, is that as a parent of children in the schools, I've been concerned about the tone of discussion and uh, the way the school committee has interacted, the way members of the school committee have interacted, and I don't think that it was a very positive, forward, progressive tone. Meaning that I don't think they really fundamentally were moving toward the same goal. They were very polarized, and I think inevitably that was, as a community member, I was pretty shocked about how polarized the committee was. And I think what I was most concerned with was there was a lot of rancor around the school committee, and there has been. And what I've noticed in the last year is that we seem to be moving away from that level of rancor. And so I'm interested in getting active to help us continue off in that direction, away from dismissiveness and a harshness that's characterized the school committee.
And would you say it's not only between some school committee members,
Yeah.
in terms of their collegial relationships,
Yeah.
which are the difference between getting the job done and not? I mean,
Yes.
we don't want to bring Washington
No.
and Congress to Amherst. We
Right.
know where that leads to.
Right.
But also it spills over in terms of the morale of the professors,
Oh, yeah.
professionals in the school district.
Inevitably.
You want to comment on that?
Yes.
You're a teacher. Let's go for it.
Oh, sure. I fortunately work in a school district where we haven't had that sort of tone and lack of collegiality, but I can only imagine, and I have talked with people in the district, it's very demoralizing. It's quite hard to get into the classroom, and you continue on. All the people do their very professional best, and I'm convinced that they've been doing that through this. But you still cannot afford to have the policy-making board that oversees the schools that is questioning the curriculum of some subject areas, that is questioning the qualifications of potential administrators for their position, that is questioning the intentions of other people in the district. That just is completely demoralizing and in some respects destabilizing.
Can you distinguish between having honest differences of opinions and how you go about sharing those concerns?
Sure, I could. This is where my union experience has worked very well, and it works particularly well in our local. In our local, I've been the grievance officer, and I've been a building representative, which is sort of the teacher union equivalent of a shop steward. And inevitably, in the course of being active in the union I've been at Belchertown now for 8 years, so I've been active in the union for 7 years. Our executive board meets once a month, if not more frequently, and we have to decide some very contentious issues. We have to make decisions about what's best for the membership, to advance a grievance, to approach the administration about a particular policy, to formulate proposals connected to contracts or any other negotiated issues. And inevitably on the board, we have significant disagreements, and we understand. I have been very impressed with, over the last 7 years, no one has questioned anybody else's intentions, and no one has questioned everyone. There's an assumption that everybody has to agree to, and that is the goodwill of all the people involved in that committee, and that has to almost be the entry ticket into any board, like a union executive board, a school committee, or any governing board, that everyone here their intention is goodwill, is for the best in the case of the union, the membership; in the case of a school district, the students and the staff.
I want to pick up on the relationship not only between the professional staff and the board, and understanding what their respective roles are,
Right.
which I think you've touched on.
Yep.
But the role of the community and the respect due to the community. I have watched school committee meetings, and citizens and sometimes teachers getting up and raising questions, and there's something on the agenda, but they thank them for making their presentation. And sometimes that's the end of it.
So in the sense that they're merely, that people in the community
They've
are
gone through
the motions? Or?
at times going through the motions. That's very controversial, I realize, but what I'm raising is the importance of the community feeling that they're being listened to.
Yes, yeah, no, I understand
and
that.
to go overboard to make sure that that happens, and that it's addressed, issues are addressed before the decisions have been made.
Yeah, no, it's never, it does undermine the public's faith in a governing board if there's the sense that, that somewhere behind the scenes and back rooms, decisions have been made, and now we're just going through the routine of letting the public speak its mind. I hope certainly to not participate on a school committee that's that way. Since I'm not on the school committee, I can't say about the validity of that. I understand that people feel that way, but I think my experience is that people frequently feel that way about a lot of governing boards in town.
Well, that's because it's not an unusual experience.
It isn't an unusual experience.
Unfortunately, in fact, we see this played on the national level now.
Right. Yeah. So I don't think it's the school committee that's necessarily got a monopoly on that.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and it's true for all boards. But I think that in this age of Occupy Wall Street, we're
Yep.
becoming more and more aware of the importance of people having an opportunity to really feel that they're not only expressing their concerns,
Right.
but there's a place for the community.
Yeah, and that's where someone told me yesterday that the school committee format used to be that. Now I know the school committee format is that public commentary can happen at the beginning, and then they get down to the agenda business items. Perhaps there's merit to going back to the old system, which again, I'm not certain about this, if this is an absolute fact, but I was told that it used to be that as they went through the agenda items, that there used to be public comment in between. There's a lot of merit to going back to that. If that will help people at least feel like you're not going through the motions, that the public can have some say on that. When it comes right down to it, though, with a governing board, I think the best way the public can exercise whether or not it feels like it's been heard is to vote someone off the board after 3 years. I mean, that's when they exercise it. Inevitably, when you get on, and I found this to be the case with the union executive board, inevitably on the school committee or in any governing board, you're going to make decisions that can't please everyone.
That's true.
And so consequently you do
But if they've been listened to, it makes a difference.
Yes, not only if they've been listened to, right, and it's also
and
important.
They've taken it into consideration.
Yes, and that they've also, I think it's important for school committee members to acknowledge that they've taken consideration.
And we had some issues like that when the big decisions about closing the schools. And the changing the programs for second language programs, and there was a lot of from the heart, presentations.
Right. I did witness some of the discussion with Marks Meadow. My kids were out of Marks Meadow when they closed it, when the school committee closed it, but I did have a chance to go to some of one part of a forum, and I thought that was a very honest, open forum, and I think the school committee handled that well, whether we agree or disagree with the decision. I thought that they allowed people to speak their mind, to be quite candid, and they didn't shut anybody down. I mean, I've been in instances where I've seen people in power use parliamentary procedure to shut people down, to shut down dissent, and I have never witnessed that in any sort of school committee event.
Let me go to the current problem of the economy and the impact that it's not only happening in terms of the resources that school committee members are continuously reaching out for, but the impact on the population, and
Oh, sure.
particularly the children. Do you want to comment on that?
I do, actually. I would say that being a teacher for the last 10 years, particularly for the last 3 years, obviously my concern and the concern of a lot of people of goodwill, whether they agree with me on specific policies or not, is that that all students learn, which inevitably means, you know, my kids and my wife and I have always felt that our kids really wouldn't have much difficulty. We have enough educational background, cultural capital. The schools did my students very well, but I can't imagine that that was too difficult. What schools really have to work is with struggling learners. And I think the root of a significant portion of the reason why learners struggle is because of economic insecurity. And certainly the last 3 years, even prior to the last 3 years, with the growing wealth gap we've had, what you really have is an awful lot of the economic insecurities of our modern economy playing out in schools. And I've had that experience not only at Belchertown, but when I started my teaching career at Turners Falls High School in a community that had very high poverty levels. I saw that on a daily basis, the students having to learn amidst the stresses of economic insecurity.
Coming back to your potential role as a school committee member, what do you think are some of your strengths that would be useful in being on the board?
Okay, so
You've really touched on some, but I kind of would like to reach out on that a little more.
Sure. So my one strength is I think I have a collegial nature. Even though I'm the union grievance officer, I still have a collegial nature. I realize even when I go into a grievance that I'm presenting a case and I really feel like the contract has been violated, I will make the best case possible. So I'm committed to a cause. I am an educator. I'm not only an educator at high school, I do adjunct faculty work at Holyoke Community College. So I can bring the perspective of someone who's a K through 12 educator and someone who's a college level educator. And in all capacities, I think I'm a very easy person to get along with. I'm collegial. I respect differences. I have no trouble working through differences. I don't believe in a top-down way of formulating policy or approaching things, approaching problem solving. And I really do believe in a bottom-up. I believe in community involvement, in community, hearing from community, but I also realize that you like to hear back from people, but also a decision has to be made. And I'm comfortable making a decision with the best sense of integrity that I can bring to something and explaining that decision and living with it.
And when is the primary?
It's on April 3rd. I believe polls open at 7 a.m.
7 to 8 p.m.
7 to 8 p.m. So I encourage people, regardless of who they're going to vote for, to just please get out. It would be great.
And we might add to that message that this program and all of the other candidates will be online after they're aired.
That's great.
And the place to go is amherstmedia.org. Look for programs under conversations or candidates night or whatever. But you'll have, the public will have plenty of opportunity to get introduced to all of the candidates for the half-hour conversation program. Plus, there's a 5-minute opportunity that's being brought. We're inviting candidates if they want to do a 5-minute.
Oh, that's great.
A statement. They need to contact us very soon.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, this is a wonderful opportunity. I thank you very much.
Well, the power of public access is that we really get an opportunity to let people speak their mind.
Sure.
And ACTV is growing.
Yep.
And it's thanks to the more than 18 student workers from the colleges and the participation of the members of the community who volunteer and create programs that we make this possible. And as you know, we're on air during town meetings, select board meetings, finance meetings, This place is so what's the word I'm looking for?
Well, the joint is jumping, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's jumping, but the word, I'm missing the word. Nothing is getting by ACTV.
Nothing is getting, yes, that's it.
If you want to know about zoning issues, you can come onto ACTV on Channel 15.
Right.
And of course, our regular programming with classic music on
Yep.
weekends and at night. So it's a pleasure. Good luck to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And the date again for the election is?
April 3rd. Tuesday,
3rd.
April 3rd.
Okay, so if you're not sure where your polling place is, you just contact the clerk at the
Yes.
town hall.
Right. And you can look it up online as well. They have, town offices have a wonderful website that's quite easy to access. All the election information in precincts.
And you'll probably be at the League of Women Voters.
I will indeed, yes.
So people will have an opportunity to meet you.
Yes.
So on behalf of Conversations and my volunteer staff and our professional staff, we'll see you next week. Keep on trucking. Good night.